I've been sitting on the bench for a decade and watching these problems, as I shared in my speech a little while ago, that have been plaguing our state and nation. And the solutions that are required lie outside the authority of the judge to solve. Issues like addiction, mental illness, call for health care responses in many cases. Most people need a counselor more than they need a guard, and they need treatment more than they need jail or prison. And I didn't find that the solutions that were available are meeting the problem. The children that are produced in these homes grow up in homes that are highly dysfunctional. And they live lives of quiet desperation in the shadows of our culture. We don't see what's going on, but they grow up without a lot of hope, without a lot of guidance, and with very little mentoring in their lives. And they tend to fall into the patterns of their parents so often and experience poor educational outcomes. All too often they'll fall into alcohol and marijuana use by 12, 13, sometimes as early as 8 or 9. And in time fall out of the school system and into our prison system at really high rates. So those problems were real. It became clear to me that if we were going to address them, it called for a federal solution, and that is a federal health care solution, because our state isn't going to expand Medicaid anytime soon by all appearances. So the real solution lies in Washington as to that issue. I'm also troubled by the issues that I spoke about with regard to the great chasm between the well-off and the poor, and how no small part of that has to do with the well-off having very favorable tax laws that most people don't have access, tax loopholes that most people don't have access to. And the middle class, meanwhile, can't afford to pay for health care. Employers can't afford to offer it as badly as they want to. An employer was telling me the other day to offer health care would have cost $4 an hour more than what she was paying, and the employee didn't want to give up that much wage. That's happening all across the country, but especially in South Dakota. There's a solution to our problems. All the other countries that are developed have found it. The Heritage magazine did a study of the most economically free countries in the world, and I think about 10 of the 11 more economically free countries than the United States all had universal health care of one form or another. That's Heritage Foundation, and Forbes magazine addressed it in its editorials, and has been speaking about it. So my point is, our problems are solvable. It requires people working across the aisles to come up with fair, common sense solutions that reach a broader consensus than just one party saying this is how it's going to be, because that's not going to stand very long in our country. We'll just be churning over this issue again and again.
So sorry. Do you think 2018 will be a good year for Democrats in South Dakota?
I have no idea. I just think it's my time to address the issues that come before me, and I'm really comfortable letting the people be the judge of whether it's a Democratic year or a Republican year. I think people look at the candidates, honestly, and try to evaluate who's going to best serve them. And my whole career as a lawyer was being a strong advocate for those I represented, and that's the kind of advocate I want to be for all of us here in South Dakota. If people decide that I'm the right person for the job, they'll send me. If they think somebody else is better, they'll send that person.
What do you think of the challenge of winning national office from a very red state?
I think people vote for candidates. Look, I've lived in South Dakota all my life. I was born when we lived in Parker. we lived West River in part of my childhood, and then Kimball, which straddles the Great Plains and the Corn Belt. Kimball's probably more West River in terms of culture than East River, more like the West River towns like Presho and Gregory than it is Sioux Falls, for example. I know South Dakota people, and they know me. I've lived the life of South Dakotans all my life, so will party matter? Of course it will. Democrats are far outnumbered compared to Republicans. So all I want to do is let people know that I'm in the race, what I want to do for South Dakota, let them make up their own decisions. People tend to get it right eventually. People most times tend to get to the right answer.
You mentioned minimum wage in your speech to the crowd, and mentioned how it sounds like you said it's the low minimum wage, and then social assistance becomes kind of a subsidy to low wage payers. What role do you think the federal government should take with the minimum wage? Increase it? To what level? Where should that go?
Well, I think, yes, I think the federal government should increase the minimum wage, and I just suggest $11 an hour. That's what it was in it would be $11.25 an hour today if we'd kept pace with 1968. I think we're as great a nation today as we were in 1968, and that we should pay 11 or 11 and a quarter an hour. And if we did, that's an anti-poverty, that's an anti-welfare or a welfare-cutting program, because it will remove people from the welfare rolls if they're earning a fair wage. And we will not have to subsidize the people who are paying the low wages if we do that. Any other questions?
Yeah, any thoughts on your the people you're going to be running against, Dusty Johnson, Chantal Kraus?
Well, I don't know either one of them, but I think that they're both good South Dakotans, and we just are both seeking the same office. I consider the people who are in a race with me to be fellow candidates. We all want the same thing. We want what's best for South Dakota. Just a matter of the people sorting out who will be the best advocate at this time for them. So I wish them well.
If you can, discuss immigration for us. That's been a big issue in Congress and the executive level this year. What are your views on America's capacity for taking in immigrants of all sorts, immigrants, refugees, work visas, etc.?
Corey, I just announced a few minutes ago, I'm going to be addressing that and a whole host of issues in position papers. We're, 17 months before the election, so I want to give thoughtful answers to all those, and I'm not going to just give off-the-cuff responses to you. It wouldn't be worthy of the question you asked, but I will tell you this. I will be releasing position papers, and they'll be on my website, but I'll also invite all of you who are here now to come back, and I will share those positions with you. And they'll be readily accessible to all South Dakotans, so they'll know at least what my position is, what I think about a particular issue, including that one.
You spent a decade on the bench. How do you think that could help you make informed decisions or balance important issues in Washington?
Well, the one thing about being on the bench is there is nobody else to point a finger at or blame for any decision you make. You alone stand accountable for it. You alone are responsible for it, and it's a very lonely job to sentence somebody for first-degree murder. And a trial judge makes thousands of decisions that impact people's lives in important ways every year. And every time your duty is to do what's right, what's fair and just. And so, do I think that's a good exercise for making decisions for the public on issues? Yes, I do. I think it's good training for that.
Touching on that, kind of the other side of that, all the sentencings you did, are you worried that'll impact at all with your voters?
No.
No?
Not at all. You know, that's one of the hardest things that anybody can be called on to do, to judge someone else's life and whether that person should go to prison and take away that person's liberty, or go back into the community and potentially risk harming somebody, depending on the case. And so it calls for our judges to be very thoughtful and deliberate, and not too quick to rush to decisions. And many is the night that a trial judge will wake up at 3 in the morning and wonder, did I do justice in that case? And sometimes you go back and revisit your decision. But no, as far as the people I sentence, you mean? No, I
Or
don't.
their families?
I don't think of that at all. I mean, not at all. Those are hard decisions. The people, I'll tell you what, most people who go to prison, you know, they're struggling and they know it, and their families know it. But I find that most of them just want to get healthy, and a lot of their problems were addiction related. They just want to get better. Many times they told me, Judge, I don't want freedom. I want to be cured. The number one response court services officers would give me when I would ask them to describe their clients or their caseload, broken. You want to see what's going on in our culture, go watch that. Sit in court for a day. Or better yet, do a story where you're following someone into the court system and through the penal system, the parole system afterward. You'd have a very powerful story, and it might win you an award if you want to do that. It just takes some work and effort. I've recommended that to several reporters. Nobody's taken me up on it. The parole board will welcome you on that end too, to sit in on hearings. They've told me that. Anybody else?
Why should someone vote for you instead of Chantel Krebs or Dustin Johnson?
Well, I'm not going to do what you'd like me to there. I'm going to tell them who I am and what I can do for the people of the state. And then I'm very content in letting the people make that decision. We have good people in our state. They want to do the right thing. They want to serve. All I'm going to speak about is what I offer.
As you talk about what you offer and who you are, do you think there's anything unique about who you are and what you offer that might help engage young voters more so than in past elections? I mean, at least get them involved and interested, not to mention maybe vote for you over the opposition.
I don't know. I hope so, because as I mentioned in my words, the compelling thought that I have that drove me into this election is, are we preserving the American dream for their generation and their children? So should they be involved and interested and excited? Yes. I hope they are. I hope they are, because that's what this is about.